possible. I might invite Ian Stewart to make any further comments.
Thank you, Premier, and good evening, everyone. Obviously, we're preparing now for the next 24 hours, the next phase of this continuing operation. We're focused in two different areas, and that is to plan and prepare for what is coming with the flood peaks to Ipswich and ultimately into Brisbane itself. But at the same time, we're also preparing tomorrow to get our police and emergency service personnel, particularly our specialist USAR staff, the Urban Search and Rescue, and other skilled operatives into the Lockyer Valley communities, particularly Grantham and in the Murphys Creek area, to start the very gruesome task of having to search for what we believe will be a number of bodies. That will be a difficult time for our people, and I would plead with the public, if you do not need to be in that area, keep away. Let the emergency services and police go about their job in as much safety as possible. Thank you.
You talked about 78 missing, Premier, that number's gone up.
Yes.
Is that all in the Lockyer Valley area, or is it some of the people in Brisbane as well?
My understanding is that that is all between the Toowoomba and Lockyer Valley as a result of the incident that we saw yesterday.
And you also talked about preparing for continuing circumstances or monitoring continuing circumstances. What are they?
What we saw emerge yesterday afternoon was an extraordinary event, the likes of which we haven't seen before, and particularly never in Toowoomba. So all I'm saying is we're now monitoring the weather overnight. We've got people, hydrologists will be working through the night tonight, modelling and remodelling what they're seeing in river systems coming into the Wivenhoe area. So all of the data that we've been advising people will be continually refined so that we can continue to give you updates throughout tomorrow. We now have a fully operational emergency centre here at Kedron, and as I said, the Bureau of Meteorology and our hydrologists are working literally 24 hours.
And can you give us an update of how many houses will be affected on Wednesday and Thursday, and what is expected to reach the river that we're expected to peak at?
In terms of some level of precision, the hydrologists are indicating that they are now reasonably, with a high degree of confidence, believe that the Bremer River in Ipswich will reach 22 metres tomorrow. That is more than 1.5 metres higher than the 1974 flood in Ipswich. The 1974 flood saw 1,800 homes significantly affected in Ipswich. So we can confidently, given Ipswich is now more populated, expect to see more. In terms of the Brisbane River, they have a high degree of confidence that we will see it reach at least the 1974 level of 5.45 metres at the Brisbane CBD. In terms of anything over that, they would like to wait for 24 hours out from the event to be any more precise than that. But they believe that we need to be planning for an event at least as big as 1974 and to be cautious to plan for something bigger than that.
In terms of, you said earlier today that modelling has been done in relation to what the Toowoomba flood, what kind of impact it would have on Brisbane. Can you paint a picture yet of what actually that might look like for us?
To get a sense of the impact of the Toowoomba event, the Lockyer River comes into the Wivenhoe catchment. On any ordinary day, it would deliver around, when it was flowing normally, it would deliver about 500 megalitres into that catchment. It is currently delivering about 2,500 megalitres. So that's certainly putting much more pressure onto that system, and we expect that it will have implications way down the downstream. But it's also been the very heavy rainfall that we've seen today that's contributed to this event. That has been in fact the main problem. The heavy rainfall into the catchment has seen all of those rivers and creeks and tributaries into already saturated ground swell and massive runoff into the Wivenhoe system.
Is there any positive news?
The only positive news is that we do expect to see the rainfall begin to clear mid-morning tomorrow. But even that, I think we need to be monitoring. This is a constantly and rapidly changing situation.
Is it a scenario where you're predicting the worst but hoping for the best?
We always hope for the best. The data that we're giving out to the public, that we're relying upon in our planning, is is more than a prediction. It is the best possible calculations on all of the known facts right now. Given the rainfall that we've had, there is really no reason to believe on all of the data that this event will be less than we are currently seeing the predictions, and if we saw more rainfall, it could be more.
There's been some panic buying in supermarkets. Is that the sort of activity you'd encourage people to do?
Clearly, the other information we should indicate is that the current advice is that when the river in Brisbane does peak, it is likely to stay at or around that peak until Saturday, so we could see the river up at that level for a 2 to 3 day period. Clearly, many roads will be cut off. Clearly, many people will not be able to get to work. People will not be able necessarily to access their normal shops. While I do not want people to be out panic buying, it would be prudent if people do not have adequate supplies at home for them to make reasonable arrangements tomorrow to get those supplies.
I mean, we're being told that the river will peak either at night or in the early hours of the morning. What challenges does that present when people are asleep? Clearly, the river's coming.
We do have some notice of this event, and we are looking to ensure that people are out of their homes before this river peaks if they are at any risk. So we can expect tomorrow to see people being encouraged to move out of their homes to higher ground, and I would encourage everybody who thinks they might be in need of doing that to do so. It is better to be safe than to be sorry, and there's no harm in spending two nights at a friend's place and to be on the safe side. As I said earlier today, please check on your elderly neighbours. Reach out a hand to a friend. If you are not likely to be affected, maybe you can help someone who is. Now is the time for us to pull together as a community. We've got outstanding people on the front line managing this disaster, but their job will be made easier if we work with them. If we stay calm, we make good plans, we help each other, and we basically stay as sensible as we can.
Now, City Hall is saying that RNA can hold about 3,500. It's double that is expected to evacuate their homes. Where else can they go? Because RNA is not big enough.
What we know from other events is that not everybody will need an evacuation centre. Many people would actually prefer, and if they are able to, will go to relatives and friends and stay in other people's homes. And that's happened in every other event, and as you can imagine, if you don't have to be an evacuation centre, you wouldn't choose to be. So we do expect to see large numbers of people relocating to homes of friends. We are also, Brisbane City Local Disaster Management Group are looking at a backup evacuation facility, and that will be mobilised tomorrow if necessary.
Given the state is half underwater, where is the focus at the moment? Is it still in those areas that are underwater, or is it basically Brisbane?
Can I reassure those people in regional Queensland who have experienced serious flooding and who are seeing the water to recede that the recovery efforts in all of those towns are going full steam ahead. They are not being diverted in any way because of the emergent issues here in the southeast. Similarly, Major General Mick Slater is continuing his job of leading the recovery. He's been out visiting in the Bundaberg and Burnett region and will be in Emerald tomorrow. So the recovery efforts in regional Queensland are not being in any way delayed, slowed down or diverted by what is happening here in the southeast. There are a number of focal points. Clearly we have Ipswich tonight. We are bracing for a very significant event, and most of the resources here in the southeast will be looking at the Ipswich region this evening. But we are very keen tomorrow to get as many search and rescue personnel into the Lockyer Valley so that we can ensure that if there are any people out there trapped, that we can reach them and save their lives.
Can I ask a question of Stuart? Have you used any of your powers to force people to evacuate from homes yet?
Not to my knowledge. And even in the towns where we've that have experienced a second wave of flooding, there have been some common sense decisions made though. For instance, at Condamine, where a number of people wanted to remain, we have negotiated with those people, and taking their safety into account, they have remained. But should the situation change, obviously we'll go back to those same people. I will say this though, we are so grateful to the community of Queensland, particularly those places that have been affected and are now finding this second wave of flooding coming through. They are being very, very practical and sensible in evacuating early in most cases, and certainly we are supporting their relocation to evacuation centres.
And what suburbs in Brisbane are the areas that will actually be heavily affected? Can you give us a couple of those suburbs?
We now have some 80 suburbs that may see some part of the suburb affected. That may just be the local park. But those suburbs that we would expect to see experiencing severe flooding are those that you would normally see in any high water event. Places like Oxley and Rockley, Murray, Hemmant, in and around the CBD, the Jindalee Centenary reaches of the river. Basically, if you are in and around any part of the Brisbane River, you need to take precautions. Similarly, if you were in a suburb in or around Breakfast Creek, we would expect to see that creek come up, and a number of suburbs in that area, the lower lying areas of Wilson, for example. I think it is very important that people check the website. The Brisbane City Council website provides very, very good mapping. For those people who are not comfortable online, there will be in the Courier Mail tomorrow flood maps, and I encourage people to get those maps and check where their homes are.
The evacuation of Warrington, is that finished yet?
Yes, that's my understanding.
It is, Premier. We started off today to take all 300 residents out. By the end of the day, there were some, because the situation had changed there, the water has started to recede, there were a handful that remained behind, but that was by negotiation and choice.
Premier, you say that it's going to be as bad or worse than 70. Given the amount of development that's happening in Ipswich and Brisbane, would you expect significantly more houses and properties to be affected this time around than in 1970?
The cities of Brisbane and Ipswich are very different cities, vastly different cities than they were in 1974. I think it's fair to say in both cases, 35 years ago, we were big country towns. We are now large urban metropolises. We have seen very significant development and high density development in and around a number of inner city suburbs. Some of these obviously are high rise and there will be limited effect, but in terms of properties and streets cut off, yes, I do expect to see the impacts of this affect more people, even if it's just their inability to get to work or to get across their suburbs. We do expect to see...
So there it is. That's Premier Bligh, Premier of Queensland, telling us what we're in for in the next few days.
And perhaps find